Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tim and I'm currently a full-time grad student studying IO psychology while working full-time in labor analytics. So today we're going to be talking about how 3 different mind bugs is affecting your decision making and hopefully to gain some self-awareness to make better and more logical decisions. So the notion of mind bugs actually comes from this book called Blind Spots, The Hidden Bias of Good People by Banach and Greenwald. It's actually an absolute stellar book that seeks to have readers deploy more self-awareness to make better and fair judgments of people. Also gets a lot into details about racism and how our judgment are pretty impaired when it comes to race. We won't get too much in details about that today, but it's definitely worth a read. So similar to blind spots in our eyes, which are regions in our eyes that isn't sensitive to light, causing us to miss part of the picture, we also have mental blind spots. So mind bugs are essentially these mental blind spots. So in this book, the term mind bugs is defined as ingrained habits of thought that leads to errors in how we perceive, remember, reason, and make decisions. So given that the mind does majority of its work subconsciously, the tricky thing about these mental blind spots is that the brain actually uses its worldview and perspective based on experience to make up for these blind spots, making them almost impossible to spot without self-awareness. So in this video, we're going to cover 3 most common mind bugs and how they affect your decision making, and hopefully knowing these they help you make better, fairer, and more accurate and logical decisions in the future. Number 1, availability heuristics. So if I were to ask you which of the following has a higher mortality case per year in the US, number 1, murder versus suicide, and number 2, cancer versus car accident. So for someone who does not have a in-depth insight into mortality cases per year in the US, we'll probably choose murder for number 1 and car accident for number 2. While the reality is murder actually only accounts for 17,000 per year, while suicide accounts for 470,000 per year. In the meantime, for car accident, it's roughly around 170,000 per year, and cancer accounts for 600,000 per year. So this is your availability heuristic or availability bias at work. Availability heuristic is a shortcut your mind takes to rely on the most immediate example when evaluating a circumstance, a topic, or decisions. Essentially what that means is, under availability heuristic, when one instance comes more easily to mind, your mind automatically assumes that instance to be more prevalent. So we're more likely to see news about people passing in car crash on the news than when compare that to seeing people pass away due to cancer. So the concept of car crash is more available to us, which causes us to assume it to be more prevalent. So the evaluation of decision therefore is based on what's more prevalent and more easier to come to mind, and not based on what's most logical and fair decision. Number 2, anchoring. So in 2006, a professor at MIT conducted a mini research in his classroom in which he had his student write down their last 2 digits of their social security number and then had them estimate a price of a certain item. So what he found is the higher the last 2 digits of the social security number, the higher the estimated price. Well, you can say that this is due to everyone's different perception when it comes to estimating a certain item's value, which may be true, but this perception is actually influenced by the mind bug called anchoring. So anchoring states that to make an assumption, the mind uses whatever information it can find, whatever information that's most immediately available, and use that as a reference point. So in this case, under anchoring, the mind takes a shortcut by using the last 2 digits of the social security number to use it as a reference point when making an estimate or assumption of an item of unclear value. So rather than taking the long route and evaluating the item's market value, functionality, or scarcity, the mind just simply uses the social security as a reference point as the basis of the estimated price. Another example of anchoring is when you're trying to buy a house. So you are shown the first house, $300,000, and you get to the second home, which is in the same area, same amenities, same square foot, everything is essentially the same, just a different house, but it's actually $50,000 pricier, you may assume this $350,000 house to be worth a little bit more than the other one, despite them appearing essentially the same. So the key here to avoid anchoring is to closely examine your decision making, interpret all embedded value, and just evaluate all information that's available to make the best possible, most logical decision. And lastly, social mind bugs. As unfortunate as it is, we judge people. And we do so actually fairly quickly. No matter how much non-judgmental we try to be, our natural instinct to judge people based on their appearance is almost undeniable. So let's say you're jogging at night, and then as you're jogging and you see 3 people walking towards you, your mind automatically starts to analyze these 3 people to see if they're trustworthy or if you should be alert. So these pieces of information that we have to determine the trustworthiness are almost formed in less than a second, and actually are done with very limited information, and we are often very unaware of how right or how wrong these conclusion or information are. So very largely, the trustworthy conclusion that we reach is made based on their appearance, the clothing that they're wearing, the shoes they're wearing, the way they talk, the way they walk, or even their skin color. When we see a face or skin color that's very similar to our own, our brain automatically evokes a feeling of trust. Some facial characteristics, such as a baby face, also evokes the feeling of trustworthiness. And I'm sure we can all agree that just because someone has a baby face doesn't mean they're trustworthy. However, our brain uses that as a clue to determine trustworthiness anyways. This is because the mind uses, as the author Banach and Greenwald puts it, membership in social groups as the contextual cues that generate a unconscious social interface. So this social mind bug is actually very dangerous because we can actually end up trusting people that we shouldn't be trusting and distrusting people who are actually trustworthy. As I always emphasize, your perspective is your reality, and a perspective of unfair distrust can and very often will lead to the mistreatment of other people. So what do you do now that you are aware of these mind bugs? So all these are essentially shortcuts that are prone to errors. So to avoid these errors, the best way to do it is to be aware of your mental processes and your decisions. Errors will still be made, don't get me wrong, but the key here is to catch yourself if you can before making these mistakes and use all information that's possible and readily available for you to help you make the most unbiased, most accurate and logical decision for yourself to live the more self-aware life possible. So I hope you find this video informative. If you did, if you liked it, feel free to give me a like, or heck, even subscribe if you want. But other than that, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you like and don't like about it. And that is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys later.